What you've just seen there is the standard high-speed setting up of a Vickers machine gun from the First World War. Now, the Vickers is not described as a heavy machine gun or a light machine gun. It's just called a standard machine gun. It wasn't until the end of the war, with introductions of 50 caliber weapons, that this weapon received the designation medium machine gun. During the First World War, despite what you will have seen in various films, War Horse, or games like Battlefield 1, this is not a point and shoot weapon. You do not sit there behind this and mow people down. This weapon is designed as artillery. With a range of 2 miles, that's 3.2 kilometers to you and I, this weapon is a very high angle fire item. It was actually considered artillery and resulted in machine gunners being known as little gunners, which probably started 1 or 2 fistfights, to be honest. Batteries of 4 of these would be arranged just slightly behind the front line in order that should an attack be called or an attack from the enemy be spotted, these guns could zero in on a position. To this end, belts, unlike this training belt here, were 250 rounds of ammunition. That's 9 yards long. For those of you who know the expression the whole 9 yards, this is where that expression came from. Designed by Mr. Hiram Maxim and built at the Vickers manufacturing plant in Britain, 70,000 of these weapons were constructed during the First World War. However, the casualty rate amongst them was so high, as they were so despised by the enemy, that there were never more than 7,000 in the fields of France at any one given time. This particular one tells quite a story. The serial number, just stamped here, is L686. Now, the L series of Vickers were manufactured only in March 1915. This tells us that this weapon is not only a fairly early one, but the next stamp is even more interesting. It's a New Zealand Army stamp. So this Vickers is a New Zealand Army Vickers. Whether it's from the First World War or the Second World War, unfortunately we cannot tell, as the records have been lost. What we do know is that she's a good old girl, served through one war, and, judging by the coat of paint, she very nearly served in the next one after that. Now, a couple of interesting details about the Vickers. First of all, this jacket at the front is supposed to contain water. The idea being it keeps the barrel cool so that you can fire for longer. It also is really, really useful if you want to very quickly boil up some water for a cup of tea. Something that New Zealand soldiers found out rather quickly. If you run out of water though, well, anything liquid will do, including recycled water, if you know what I mean. During the Battle of Passchendaele, a battery of 4 of these machine guns fired non-stop for 48 hours in support of New Zealand advances. It took 200 men to keep these guns supplied, not only with ammunition, but with water, and keeping the crews fed and watered as well. In that time, they fired an estimated 1.6 million rounds of ammunition. Considering that 4 of these guns were supposed to be able to purge a 60 square foot area in less than 2 minutes, that kind of puts it in perspective. When I talk about a beating zone, here's how it works. A battery of 4 of these guns will zero in on an area outlined on a map before an attack takes place. 2 guns will purge this area, up and down. 2 will go side to side. Remember, this gun has a range of 3.2 kilometers. And in the middle of a battle, you're not going to hear them firing. From the Germans' perspective, they would be in their trenches, or even their support rear echelon trenches, minding their own business, please and thank you, when silently, out of nowhere, it'll start raining lead. They won't have any warning that it is coming, and because these bullets are coming from high angle, like so, and then downwards, it doesn't matter how deep you are in the trench, you can still get hit. This is one of the driving reasons behind the development of the German Stahlhelm coal scuttle helmet, to protect the neck and ears from that kind of fire. What made this worse was the design of the 303 bullet. With its heavy base and sharp tip, bear in mind what you've been learning in physics. If an item is coming down and the base weighs more than the tip, what is it going to do? It's going to tumble. This means it's going to spin. So you don't have sharp pointy bullets coming at you. You usually have the blunt end of a high velocity object. Now we won't go into detail about what that does because it's just gone lunchtime here. But it is something for you to bear in mind that not all wounds were clean, shall we say. Moving on to a slightly easier topic. This weapon has a crew, just a firing crew, of 3. It could have a support crew of up to 10. The idea is, one man fires, one man loads, and the other either spots, carries extra water, or carries extra ammunition. Bearing in mind these guns are supposed to be used 4 altogether, never one on its own. Unless something has gone very, very wrong. Of those 3 men, when you've disassembled the gun and you're moving it from place to place, one man carries the barrel and mechanism, like you saw me doing when I arrived. Also, they carry ammunition. The next man carries the cradle in one hand, and more ammunition and water in the other. The third carries the tripod. Now, usually, we don't carry the tripod disassembled. It doesn't really work very well. It takes a bit longer to set up. So what they usually will do, will carry the tripod set up, as you see here, and they will hook it over their shoulders. Something which I will demonstrate at the end. Right, well that concludes today's talk on the Vickers. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to disassemble it now. Stay safe, all.